All right, good afternoon and welcome to the September 24th Capital Investment Committee meeting. If you'll bear with me, I have this lovely paragraph I have been asked to read in its entirety. The Capital Investment Committee meeting will limit physical access in the meeting room due to current limitations on public gatherings. Accommodations have been made to ensure that the public is able to participate in the meeting. The public may participate in the following ways. They may watch the meeting on Franklin TV or the City of Franklin website, watch the live stream through City of Franklin Facebook and YouTube accounts, or call into the conference meeting 1-312-626-6799. The meeting ID is 936-2736-4339. The passcode is 670796. Now, I've been told, because I know any of you who just heard that won't remember that, nor did you write it down. If you need that information, you can find it on the agenda, which is on our website. So that's the part I didn't think I needed to read. Callers will be unmuted and given an opportunity to comment during the meeting at specific times. Limited viewing will be available in the lobby of City Hall. You may hang out with Linnea Benny. Or you may watch the live video. The public may email comments and questions prior to the start of the meeting to recorder@franklintn.gov to be read aloud. Our YouTube channel and Facebook and website are easy to find. So we're going to call this to order. Item number 1. Nope. Oh, we have to take roll. All right. This is good because I'm not sure if Dana's here or not. Margaret Martin, are you here? Dana, there he is. Beverly Berger, and I am here. All right, moving on. Item number 1 is consideration of resolution 2020-180, a resolution declaring that the Capital Investment Committee shall meet on September 24th and conduct its essential business by electronic means rather than being required to gather a quorum of the members physically present in the same location, because it is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. I need a motion or just, okay, I need a motion to approve. All right, Bev's first, second, please. Margaret gives me a second. All right, roll call vote. Martin, I'm looking down. Margaret, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Dana?
Yes.
Bev?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Carries unanimously. Item number 2 is the approval of minutes. Consideration of the approval of minutes of the August 27th, 2020 Capital Investment Committee meeting.
Move for approval.
All right. Bev's first. May I have a second?
Second.
Margaret, roll call vote. Margaret, how do you vote? I think I saw yes. Dana? Dana, do you vote yes to approve the minutes?
I'm doing it.
Okay, yes. I can't see that though. Bev?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Passes unanimously. Item number 3, under new business, consideration of resolution 2020-182 to adopt the revised neighborhood traffic calming program with presentation. Paul?
So over the past year, and we've needed to do this for a long time, we've been working on updating our traffic calming policy and program, and wanted to share that with the CIC committee and ultimately the board of mayor and aldermen. I think everyone knows Adam Mosier, who's our senior traffic engineer. I also want to introduce David Chang, who does a lot of our signal timing behind the scenes. He also works with a lot of reviewing of development impact studies, and also modeling for capital projects or looking at ways we can improve traffic operations throughout the city. So he's also played an important role in developing this. And I'm going to turn it over to Adam and David to walk you through a short presentation of generally what we do now and some of the proposed changes. So Adam, take it away.
Great. Angie, if you could share my screen or give me privilege. Awesome. All right, hopefully everybody can see that. Good? Okay.
You're good.
All right. I'm sure most of you at one time or another have contacted the TOC or myself or Carl or whatever for a traffic calming study. So I know a lot of the aldermen are probably very familiar with our traffic calming program. So today we're just going to cover, what it is, the old one. We're going to look at, why do we need to update it at all? What's wrong with it? And the short answer to that is really nothing, but other than that, it's 15 years old and the industry has kind of moved on a little bit. What are the changes? David Chang, our traffic engineer, will go over that. That works in our traffic operations center. He's worked very hard on looking at nationwide practices and changes that are needed. And then we'll just honor any questions or comments on this. So our existing neighborhood traffic calming program has been around since I think it was approved in 2006. So it's been around a while. It provides our steps for our citizens, when they're requesting a traffic calming study. We've probably, since COVID, I get 1 to 2 per week as far as requests go. We never used to get that many. Well, we would, but it wouldn't be 1 to 2 per week. It'd probably be every other week or every third week I'd get a request. So it's really picked up, the requests have. As you can imagine, more people are home. So it gives us guidelines and a reason for, or a program or a request way for our residents to look at speeds, counts in the residential neighborhood on local streets only. We do not do traffic calming on collectors or arterials. Of course, it goes through a process and then projects are selected if they meet the criteria. So why is an update necessary? Like I said, our process and programs, our guidelines for the most part are about 15 years old. And as you can imagine, traffic calming practices change over time. Another thing is our current process requires a kind of a frustrating thing for citizens. We've gotten a lot of feedback on that it requires a first public meeting, a petition process, and then we go study the roadway. And what happens is the petition process can be pretty tedious, as you can imagine, going door to door getting signatures. So many times they would get frustrated when they would go collect the signatures and then we'd come back and say, oh, I'm sorry, you don't meet the criteria after a study. So we've made some changes there and David will go over that. And then we had an education and enforcement policy. So let's say you didn't qualify for traffic calming. Our old program mentioned education and enforcement, but really didn't define that. So we went ahead and did that. So I'm going to introduce David Chang. If you've ever been to our traffic operations center, he took Gupta Bora's place in our traffic operations center. He's been doing a fantastic job. We're lucky to have him. He's been here a little over a year, helps me with a ton of items. This was one of them that I asked him to go look for nationwide practices and how we can more streamline our traffic calming program. So David, do you want to take it away?
So as Adam had mentioned, we've made some changes to the process of how the residents will come through the traffic calming process, and that previously it was kind of difficult for residents or can be frustrating. So one of the first things we did was we removed one of the public meetings, and we're going to do some of the legwork before the public really gets involved. And it really doesn't require much work on our end. We have a couple of radar units that collect speed. We have video cameras that can count the number of cars on the roads. So it's really not much work for us to do these things to find out whether or not they will qualify. I mean, it's a whole lot less work than going door to door and collecting signatures. So that was one of the changes that we've made. Another change that we've made is that we've, for the petition process, it used to be they'd have to collect 50% of the vote, or 50% of the residents would have to vote for or in favor of the traffic calming measure. This sometimes would cause contention in the neighborhood. 50% were for, or 49% were against, 51% were for. We'd end up with this division in the neighborhood, and would cause some contention. So we opted for larger a larger majority to reduce that. And also, on some of the research that I had done, or we had done, we looked at over 25 different traffic calming programs in the country. Some were state level, county level, city level, various sizes of organizations. And we found that the average number that people were using was about 67%. And that was also the most common rate that people were using. So that's why we went with that number. Like Adam said, we also defined what education enforcement actually means now. We've been developing a flyer that can be distributed to residents to help them understand the relationship between speeding and crashes. And one of the statistics we have in there is the survivability rate of a crash. If you're a pedestrian, you get hit by a car at 20 miles an hour, your chances are pretty good of surviving. If you're in good health and not a child and not an elderly, your chances are pretty good. But as speed increases, your chances of survival drastically decrease. So we've got information like that to help the residents understand the implications of potentially speeding and the importance of that relationship. And we've also included some contact information and some things that they can approach the police department about helping to get some temporary feedback or driver feedback signs to educate the public. Next slide, Adam. So something new that we've added to our traffic calming program is this grading system. This is something that is newer to the country. It's been recently not published, but has been going around nationally, and something that we thought would bring great value to our program as well. So for this grading system, they would need to have a minimum of 6 points to qualify for the program. And what this grading system does is it allows us to have some flexibility. If you don't have the volume, but you have the speeding problem, we can still address this issue. Whereas before it was a pretty rigid, you have to have this much volume, you have to have this much speeding to qualify. Now, if you've got a major speeding problem, if everybody's going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, and you only have 200 cars, before you wouldn't qualify, but now because you have a speeding problem, you can qualify for this program. Or on the opposite end, if you don't quite have a large speeding problem, people are going 4 miles an hour over the speed limit, but you have a lot of vehicles on your road as a cut-through route, you can still qualify for the program. And something else we've added this go around is 1 point added to your score if you have no sidewalks on either side of the road. And that's just to further help keep the roads safe for pedestrians, as well as mainly the pedestrians and drivers, to make sure that we are being as safe as we can. So something else new is previously our funding for the traffic calming program is limited, which only allows us to do a handful of projects every year. In the past, we've had HOAs that wanted to put in measures themselves. They would pay for it and everything, and they would just do it. But however, because our program didn't allow it, they couldn't. We are going to make a change this go around and allow HOAs or groups to put money towards a project. And what this does is it'll allow us to go do more projects every year. It'll spread our dollars further. However, all the projects must still go through us. They must still meet our requirements to be able to qualify. And once they do qualify, they still have to go through the petition process. And then at that point, if they would like to contribute funds to the project, they can. And that will also help in assisting prioritizing projects based on the available funds. Next slide. So this slide shows kind of where we were and where we are now. What we've done is we've simplified the process by combining steps. As mentioned previously, we're going to do some of the legwork beforehand. We're going to remove that first public meeting and the petition process, and we will wait to do the petition process until after we've done our data collection analysis and it meets all of the requirements, and then we'll go into the one and only public meeting where we'll explain what you met the criteria. We can move on with the process. You need to get so many votes for this measure, and we can move on from there. So we've combined a few steps. We've eliminated a few things to hopefully make this process a little more streamlined and less frustrating to the residents. And with that, are there any questions or comments?
Margaret?
Yes. I have several questions. Where do they go first? To whom do they make the phone call that they want some help?
Usually it's routed to me, more or less.
All right.
Yep.
That's good. All right. Secondly, if you do put these speed humps in place, are they the new rubber kind that you could remove them if you needed to, or are they made out of tar that, those little things that jar your car all to pieces?
Yeah, we typically work with the streets department on that because a lot of that's limited to budget. I know streets, for instance, you're probably referring to the new latest ones on Alexander and Westfield. That was our last speed hump project in which we used the rubberized, they're called temporary, but they're really kind of, they're really screwed down into the ground with some large bolts.
Yes.
They're a little bit cheaper of an option than the asphalt humps, easier to maintain. For instance, when they repave those roads, they easily pop them out, pave the road, and put them back in. And it was a pretty good option. The only problem with those is we don't have a life cycle on them yet. I know what the manufacturer says, but we'll have to go by trial and error and see how long those things really last. So we're giving those a shot. So really, I guess that was a long answer to your question, but we're going to.
That's what I needed to hear.
Well,
Yeah,
something I would add in there as well is that we would never actually do a speed bump on a public road. We would only do a speed hump, which is a larger bump in the roadway.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the thing that he just showed us in that slide that he just showed us.
Yes, and an asphalt hump works the same as a rubberized hump. Again, the rubberized hump can just be removed if need be, but sometimes we don't get quite the life out of a rubberized hump as what the manufacturer claims.
What I would add to that too is we're always looking to ensure that what we do is high quality, going to last for a long time. So usually as we're approaching those, we're working very close with street department on what they feel is best for long-term maintenance and operation. But either way, whichever product we select, we're going to make sure it's high quality and meets the intention of the street calming program.
That's good. Okay. Well, I'm thrilled to death to hear
What's
this.
the difference in price on those? Rubberizers.
Here's what I found.
Sorry, I think it's about a few $1,000s per hump. So actually the asphalt humps are more expensive. The problem with asphalt humps is you have to mobilize an asphalt crew, and that's not cheap, obviously, as well as a small quantity. So if you're not doing it with a paving project, it can be very costly, $8,000 to $10,000 per hump. Whereas the rubberized ones, we can get them and install them, $4,000 or $5,000.
And I would say that's a good point that Adam brings up is, right now our street department seems to be a bigger fan of doing the rubberized ones, but if it's tied into a milling and resurface project, they may have a different opinion. And so I think our best approach is to, as these things are approved, we continuously talk to our street department about the best way to go forward with installation. And if we're not seeing the life cycle return on them, their opinions may change over time. So that's been our approach this far, is to continue to work with Steve Grubb and his team as these are brought forward.
Bev, do you have something?
Yeah, I do. What's the life cycle of those rubberized humps on a typical residential street?
Well, the manufacturer will probably, I think they say 5 to 7 years is your typical life cycle on those. They have stated that they will last longer, but I think it was really dependent on traffic, how many things are hitting that. So the higher your volume, the more it's going to wear.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I have one other question.
Okay.
So it says define prioritization for multiple successful requests. What well, wait a minute. Yeah, define prioritization. So what's the priorities that you define? I mean, traffic volume for one thing, I would think, but safety, how do you determine that? Because I know we get multiple requests and some are more safety, have more safety factors involved.
So that was one of the reasons why we came up with the grading system. So if you have a higher speed, more volume, your grade, your number is going to be higher on that grading system. So that helps us prioritize projects. The second part of the prioritization is if the HOA is going to contribute funds or not. So, or the neighborhood. It doesn't have to be an HOA. If a group of citizens that don't have an HOA have resources and want to pool funds, they can do that, and that helps us with our budget. So let's say out of a $30,000 traffic calming budget, we only have like $10,000 to $15,000 less, or less. If we had a neighborhood pitch in and we could use the rest of that budget, we would do that and get a project done.
All right, Bev, anything else?
No, thanks.
Okay, so I don't think Dana has anything, but interesting. All of my questions are on the other side of the coin. And oddly enough, a couple of weeks ago, I got a phone call from a friend, female, who has an issue in her neighborhood, has had cars end up in her front yard, and is very concerned about a traffic situation and safety. And while we're still working through this issue, when she found out that part of what she would need to do was go door to door and get a petition signed, which has been customary, there is no HOA. Well, I'll say that, so that's important to know. She does not feel safe going door to door as a single female living in a neighborhood. And then you also have to consider people who may be for or against it, just kind of the pushback that she might receive as being the one to initiate this process. So I have some concerns there, and I know that it's not going to be rampant across the city because typically we do have HOAs. But so my thought or my question is, as we're starting to move more and more and more into technology for doing things, is there a way or a component, Adam or David or Paul, where we could say maybe a flyer is distributed so they don't have to approach somebody's door? On that flyer is a portal where people could go, even if they don't speak English, so that we have a Spanish and an English and a, different languages where people could understand the question that's put before them, to fill it out that way. We get a lot of petitions, as we all know, online. But then also, so that's one point that I think I would love to look into for people who do not have HOAs. HOAs have a way of contacting their homeowners, obviously. But then the other thing is differentiating between a renter or someone who actually owns the property, to distinguish whether we have to have the owner's name on the petition and sign, and that's a question I have. And then lastly, does this also, like in my neighborhood in Andover, I don't know how long ago it was, they came trying to get parking moved to one specific side of the road instead of both because it's a bottleneck and dangerous. And we were told we had to have a petition. Well, guess what? They've never come back again. So does this same new process apply to other traffic calming things like parking on a side of a road or one side of a road? So sorry, that was a lot.
So I can address, I'll let Adam chime in, but in the one specific case where we had a property owner that felt uncomfortable doing it,
Hmm.
Jonathan actually had the idea because I didn't know what to do. Jonathan quickly came in and had the idea of, well, we could simply mail out flyers on her behalf and have pre-stamped envelopes ready to go so that they could do it. As far as doing it digitally, electronically, I think that would be amazing. We'd have to work through that with our IT steering committee to see if that's feasible and how that's feasible to try to implement. I think long term, that's where we probably need to head. It's
Yeah.
just much more convenient for everybody involved and provides documentation. So I think that's great feedback.
We would need to
Um,
be able to prove that they actually are who they say they are.
and so
Versus,
we,
Right. I understand that, but let's be honest, guys. Some of the petitions that we've gotten before, it's got such chicken scratch on there. We just have to act like we know what it says.
you're correct.
So
And so I think
I call on that. I don't think that argument holds water.
we would figure out how to make sure that they have something to certify that they're the property owner and it's to the best of our ability that we would, bring forward that information. So I think that's great advice and we'll work with our IT to see how we can do it. In the meantime, the mailing is certainly an option we can accommodate and are willing to accommodate and are planning to do with that one resident that you have mentioned there.
Yeah, and it's not going to fit every foot. I mean, I do think, again, when you've got larger neighborhoods that have the capability to reach all of their residents, that's different. But I think that we've got to be able to have, a plan B for those who don't have that. So, anyway. And I wrote
Those-
notes if you need to remember that, although we have videoed this, so it's okay. So, a motion from someone?
And we can answer those other things too.
Yes.
The unfortunately, renters cannot sign the petition. It has to be the property owner.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been very steadfast on that and very strict on that. If the renter wants to go to their property owner landlord for a signature, they're obviously more than welcome to do that.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I just think there's a little bit more work to be done to make it fair across the board.
It is, and one thing we forgot to mention in the slideshow, but it is in the program as an attachment under the resolution, the full program. Parking we are doing a section for parking, and it will follow the same type of
Great.
petitioning. Yep, absolutely.
Margaret?
So,
You had something?
Yes. I know what you're saying, Adam, about the property owner, but sometimes the property owner lives in another city and it's the renters who deal with the speeders. And so I kind of object to just leaving them out of it. I know what you said. They could go to the property owner if they know who the property owner is. But if it's somebody in a big complex, I just don't know if they know how to do that. But they're the ones that actually deal with the speeders. So
I wonder if we could come up with some sort of proxy system.
What do you mean?
Meaning, if you own my house I live in, you give me permission to vote on your behalf.
Oh, that's a good thing. I
Yeah.
don't know if it would work, Adam.
Boy, this little project's got lots of tentacles now, doesn't it?
But it really is.
fine.
That's all I hear from all over town is the speeders and the loud mufflers.
And I would say we can certainly revisit that. The improvements that Adam and David have made to this are significant, in my opinion, to make it
Right.
easier on the property owner. So I'd suggest we still move forward with it, but that's something we need to continue to debate and look at. And I don't know that I have an answer for you on the property owners versus renters. I'd want to see what David has to say about his research and what's out there and why the pros and cons, and make sure we bring that back to y'all to talk about and something we'd certainly be committed to.
Yeah, I'd like to know the legalities of that too.
Well, and by no means is any of my comments meant to take away from your hard work. This is great, and we appreciate you streamlining the process for sure.
All right, Brandy,
Margaret? Yes, ma'am.
if you're ready for a motion, I'll make it.
Go for it.
All right, I move that we accept this proposal to take to the board.
Okay. May I have a second?
Second.
Bev, all right. Roll call vote. Any more discussion, I guess? I think we've talked it to death. All right, Margaret, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Thank you. Bev?
Yes.
I also vote yes, passes unanimously.
And I do have one question on that. Obviously, we're a subcommittee of the full board. If you feel that this is worthy of going to a work session for discussion, or whether you want to take it our typical way to consent, and Eric, you're welcome to chime in on that as well.
No. Margaret, Margaret made the motion. She said go to the full board. Do you want it on a work session, Margaret?
No.
Oh, see, I disagree.
You want it on a board, on a work session?
Yes, ma'am. I think Eric just overruled both of us and he says yes.
Well, I
Okay.
think it could be on the work session and then the voting session the same night.
Yeah, I was not meaning to overrule anybody, but I was going to suggest, since so many of all the aldermen interact with this request from time to time, it would be helpful for them to at least get this briefing. We could put it on both, but I think having it on a work session so we could talk it through and everybody kind of get an understanding of it might be helpful, because you all get requests from time to time and of this nature.
But put it on the same night, though.
Well, I think there still needs to be a little bit more work before we vote it in, though, don't you?
What do you want?
We can certainly research the renter issue. I'd like some time to evaluate that. That may take some time. I don't know how long that would take, and it may take a few discussions, obviously.
Well, we can always update it. And it's only a 2-week difference. So I would suggest that we bring it to the work session. It probably wouldn't be till the 27th of October, because the 13th is already pretty full. We can look at if there's any urgency to get it done before November 1st, or we do it at the first meeting in November for a final vote.
All right, moving on. Item number 4, consideration of draft amendment number 1 to City of Franklin contract number 2019-0378, a professional services agreement with, I'm going to say, Los Design for the Liberty Park Master Plan. Paul, is
That
it
is
Los or
perfect.
Los?
You did perfect. It was Lewis and Associates, and they've been working with our Parks Department and Shahad and engineering team to look at that master plan. One of the things that we'd like to add to that is to bring a general contractor into the discussion to help us cost estimate some of the improvements to ensure that we stay on budget, which in that line of work, it is typical. Architects typically do work directly with GCs to help in estimating projects, again, to line up with the owner's expectations. So relatively low cost and assures that our project is designed based on a budget. So we would recommend approval and happy to answer any questions.
All right, may I have a motion, please?
I move for approval.
Second.
Thank you. All right, any discussion, ladies?
No, it looks good.
I'm sorry, and Dana.
I'm good.
Yeah, I think this looks good. So,
All right, roll call vote. Margaret, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Bev?
yes.
I also vote yes, passes unanimously. Item number 5, consideration of draft amendment number 1 to City of Franklin contract 2019-0255 with Richard L. Maddox, SRA, for appraisal services for the McEwen Drive Phase 4 project at a cost increase of $7,000. Paul.
So when we were doing appraisals of the Avalon Square property right there at the intersection of McEwen and Cool Springs Boulevard, our appraisers originally thought that they were residential tracts. And when we educated them that no, these are entitled developments and provided the development plans to them, one of the appraisers is not certified to do commercial, and commercial properties take a significant amount of effort to appraise. And so this additional cost allows for those 2 tracts to be appraised by a commercial appraiser and the additional work associated with it. So we recommend approval of this and happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right, let's get a motion and
I'll
we'll
move for approval
discussion.
with comment.
All right,
Second.
thank you. Yes, Bev, go ahead.
Okay, so Paul, this is just in front of Mead of Avalon, or is this also the McKay's Mill parcels?
These two tracks are simply Joe Parks's Avalon Squared tracks right there at McEwen and Cool Springs.
Oh, Avalon Square one. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. The HOAs don't include that, are they? I mean, as far as the commercial, it's just residential, isn't it?
Yes, they're just residential, and
Okay,
that's
okay.
acceptable.
I want to make sure I'm not confused with that. Thank you. That's all.
Any other questions or comments? All right, roll call vote. Starting with Margaret, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dana,
Yes.
thank you. Bev?
Yes.
I also vote yes, passes unanimously. Item number 6, turn the page. Consideration of draft amendment number 1 to City of Franklin contract 2014, an oldie but goodie, -0289, TDOT agreement 140204. Project we hadn't heard about in a while, but it's coming for the Columbia Avenue widening and improvements project.
So yeah, I'm excited to tell you that TDOT recently just approved our right-of-way certificate, or I'm sorry, our notice to proceed for right-of-way acquisition. So be ready for Columbia Avenue. We're in the process of brainstorming of how we bring this back forward to the board and how we bring it back forward to the residents and business owners. This contract that's in front of you today does nothing more than change the date that we have in our agreement with the Tennessee Department of Transportation. So no major impact. It's just an administrative change of a date. But I will tell you, on a project standpoint, we're going to move this project as fast as we can while being responsible. And we're at a point now with the right-of-way notice to proceed to right-of-way acquisition that it would make sense for us to re-engage the board and again re-engage the business owner. So we're strategically thinking about the best way to do that before we proceed into this phase, and happy to answer any questions that you have.
So the date on the document of 2023, is that completion, or remind me of what that date is?
That date is actually completion date based on the way
Okay.
TDOT looks at it. But knowing that these projects take a while, it will most likely have to be amended again.
Well, that would be the question that we get more than anything, at least
Yes.
in my neck of the woods, is when is this going to ever be done? Or when do we have to get ready for it to start? So
Yes, ma'am. It is intended to be the completion date, but inevitably those dates change in the agreements.
absolutely.
So to answer your question, I think a lot of that is going to depend on how successful we are with right-of-way acquisition. A job of this nature is probably 1.5 to 2 years of acquisition. And, we still got to have some public meetings and make sure that we have business and property owner support and ultimately the board of mayor and aldermen. So it's hard to say, but we're going to proceed as quickly and responsibly as we can.
All right, may I have a motion?
I move with approval.
All right. Second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Any more discussion?
I just want to say that we better get ready because we're going to have Franklin Road, 96 West, Columbia Avenue, all torn up at the same time. And it's going to be really fun to hear everybody complaining. So just tell them how wonderful it's going to be when it's finished.
But the great news is by then we should have Mac Atcher, so that would bring some relief.
Yes, yes, yes.
You got to look at the glass half full, Margaret.
Every time we see an orange barrel go up in Franklin, the engineering department has a celebration. It's progress.
Mhm.
And Margaret, we will have the signal at West Haven too.
Well, maybe.
You may not have your bridge on West Main though, so
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
One day, long one after I'm gone, you all can put
Well,
that.
that's why Dana says we're going to name it after you.
Okay.
All right, roll call vote. Margaret, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dana,
Yes.
you were doing amazing, Dana. Bev,
Yes.
I also vote yes. Okay, passes unanimously. Item number 7, consideration of City of Franklin contract 2020-0229 of Middle Tennessee Electric Membership Corporation relocation agreement for the East McEwen Drive Phase 4 improvements project.
So this is one of 3 agreements, utility relocation agreements that we've been negotiating and have to get done. But essentially what we look at is that their facility is on private right-of-way. We as a city are obligated to pay for them to relocate. If their facility is in our public right-of-way, they are on the hook then to relocate. And so Middle Tennessee, we've done a design, we've worked with them very extensively. They have estimated the relocation, or at least our portion of the relocation, to be around $144,000. That final price is based on actual cost, but this ultimately will help us move that project forward, and we are recommending approval to proceed. So happy to answer any questions you have.
I'll move for approval.
All right. Bev has first.
Second.
Second by Margaret. Any more discussion or comments? All right, roll call vote. Margaret, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Bev?
Yes.
I also vote yes, passes unanimously. Item number 8, consideration of amendment number 1 to City of Franklin contract 2019-0318 with CDM Smith for the Jordan Road Improvements Project in the amount of $35,000.
This PSA will allow for the legal descriptions and exhibits to be drawn up by CDM Smith. It was not part of their original scope. There is also some extensive utility coordination that we have done on the job. And so right now we're at a point where last time I believe we approved the appraisal services, but we're going to get the appraisals moving forward and start making offers to property owners to get this project out to bid. So we recommend approval and happy to answer any questions you have.
I'll move for approval with comment.
All right. May I have a second, please?
Second.
All right, go right ahead, Bev.
Hey, so I got a couple questions. Right away. So do we not have any right away that was designated to us at all when Nair built that building over there behind them, behind Jordan?
That's a good question. I'm not exactly sure why it didn't happen, but they did not dedicate right of way for that. We would have had to pay them anyways through collector road impact fees. I will say that Southern Land did plat the property, the McEwen Town Center property, before they sold it to Boyle, and they did dedicate a lot of right of way. There's definitely been some other utilities put in. There's irrigation been put all up and down our right of way that needs to be fixed and relocated, and there's temporary construction easements. So while some of it has been dedicated, unfortunately not all of it has, and so we will have to go negotiate with property owners.
So we have some of that's dedicated, Southern Land through Boyle. Right now we have some of that's already dedicated.
Yes,
Do
ma'am.
we know how much do we have in road impact fees for that road? Do we know that we're going to dedicate to that road?
I don't have the.
We have Boyle, and we have whoever built Nair building.
Oh yeah, if you look at the surrounding properties, yes, there will be a substantial amount of collector impact fees. I don't know, as they proceed forward, I don't know how much we have sitting there today in that quadrant. That would be something we'd have to discuss with finance to see where we're at.
Have a significant amount though to go on that road, to cover that road?
I would assume so with the development happening in that quadrant, but I would need to, again, I need to talk to Michael Walters Young and finance
Okay,
to
well, can you
hone in
check
on
on that for me? I'm curious
Solid.
what we got,
Right.
because we have significant development there, and I just like to know that, at some later date. Thanks.
All right, any more questions or comments? All right, roll call vote. Margaret, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Bev?
Yes.
All right, I also vote yes, passes unanimously. Item number 9, consideration of City of Franklin contract 2020-0235, joint funding agreement between the United States Geological Survey and the City of Franklin for water resource investigations. Michelle.
So these are the river monitors that we have in the Harpeth River to allow us to, we use one of them for our water withdrawal. It's continuous instantaneous measurements. So this is for the maintenance. So USGS operates and maintains those, and then we view the data via our SCADA system for operation of our water plant. And then there's one downstream of the city that we also pay for as well. So this is for a year's funding.
And what's the amount on that, Michelle?
It is.
I can't pull mine up. I'm looking at a piece of paper.
Yeah, $64,750.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion, please, for item number 9?
Move for approval.
Okay,
Second.
thank you, Margaret and Bev. Any more comments or questions? Not that we had any, but that's what's coming next. All right, roll call vote. Margaret, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Bev?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Item number 10, consideration of draft amendment number 2 to City of Franklin contract 2020-0143 with CDM Smith for additional administrative services for SRF loans and development of an electronic operations and maintenance meeting hall.
So there's a couple different parts to this amendment. The first part is you had approved an amendment a while ago for one of our subcontractors to have additional administration monies for the SRF loan. So we anticipate getting up to additional $32.5 million to complete the entire construction for the water reclamation facility. So this would be for one of our other subs to do some of the Davis-Bacon wage rates, interviews, some of the additional documentation, American Iron and Steel requirements. That's all part of the SRF documentation. So that's the one part of it. It didn't get included in the initial amendment, so we wanted to, the first amendment wanted to include that. The other part is, the other main part is an electronic O&M manual. So this was actually in the initial scope of CDM that we were looking at. Brian and I, the assistant director, ended up taking it out because there was some additional kind of refinement that we wanted to do as far as getting some tasks and how we wanted it to look. So we wanted to add that. The intention was always to add that back in. So we wanted to get that on here so we could start, as we're kind of nearing the time period where some of that equipment is finishing up substantial completions, to get that so we could get CDM started on making that manual for us.
All right, may I have a motion, please?
I move for approval.
Thank you, Bev. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All right, roll call vote on item number 10. Margaret, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Bev?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Item number 11, consideration of draft change order number 5, the City of Franklin contract 2017-0264 with Kiewit Infrastructure South Company for the water reclamation facility modifications and expansion project for a change in substantial completion dates, yay, for the alum storage and feed systems and the reclaimed water pump station. Michelle.
So these are, this is just a change order for time that we had wanted to get in front of you. There's no additional monies that's being accounted for. The alum substantial completion was back in February, and we modified that kind of based on some changes that were made. The reclaimed water station is one of the bigger ones that we're moving to December. And there are, you can see in the last page of the memo, there's some phased kind of completion dates that Kiewit will have to adhere to. Otherwise, we'll be looking at liquidated damages. So we wanted to make sure, get these kind of finalized and get these set in stone so they have something to work toward.
May I have a motion, please?
Move for approval.
Oh, we're switching it up. Thank you, Margaret. May I have a second? Bev or Dana, it's up to you.
Second.
Thank you so much. Any comments or questions? Roll call vote on item number 11. Margaret, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Bev?
Yes.
I also vote yes, passes unanimously. Item number 12. Consideration to grant sewer availability for 1233 Ascot Lane, which is spelled different than Ascot Lane in the next item, so we might want to fix that. Michelle.
Yeah, I apologize. I'll get that corrected.
It happens.
So number 12 and 13, I kind of want to consider somewhat the same. They're both along Ascot Lane in the Red Wing Meadows subdivision. So these two availabilities, I apologize. They're on septic right now. The 5 Mile Creek Interceptor crosses the HOA open space adjacent to the property. but there's not a service line or a main that extends down Ascot Lane to these properties. So 1233 is closest, and then 1240 is a little bit farther down the road right there. We would recommend denial for these availabilities. However, if the board were to want to grant them availability, we would recommend the conditions outlined in the memo that the two property owners be required to extend the main down Ascot Lane to serve all of those properties.
Wow.
And I don't know, Angie, I had forwarded the meeting invite to both of those property owners. I'm not sure if they
I
are
believe
online.
one is
Oh,
here. Too.
Here we are. Okay.
So I'm going to ask for a motion and then let the property owners speak should they like to. Or do we want the property owners to speak first?
I'd like to hear from them.
Okay, great. So, I don't have an agenda other than, thank you.
It's
Sorry.
Mize.
Say your name and your address.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. My name is Mark Mize. My address is 1233 Ascot Lane. I'm, as Ms. Hatcher stated, we're in the county. We're not in the city. My property is directly adjacent to the HOA common ground where the 5 Mile Interceptor passes north to south through our neighborhood, just south of Ascot Lane. We are, the reason that we're asking for this availability is in order to put an addition onto our house. The county, I'm sure you guys have had to deal with requests like this from other homeowners in the county. The county, whenever we file for a permit, requires us to basically have a review of our septic system. And part of that review is sewer availability. So the first step is to ask for sewer availability from the city of Franklin. If we are granted sewer availability, they will deny us any septic upgrades or updates or anything related. They will just force us to hook up. So originally our thought was, okay, that's fine. We don't mind to hook up to the sewer. It's pretty close. Other homeowners in our neighborhood have hooked up to the sewer, and I was okay with that until I found out we needed to install a main that was approximately 530 feet long to the eastern point of our property line. So, using standard construction costs, that's approximately $100,000. So our cost, I'd already calculated everything out, tap fees, called a few contractors. Our cost to just do a direct hookup was approximately $10,000, maybe up to $12,000, depending on pumping of our 2 tanks, collapsing, inspection, stuff like that. So asking us to pay $100,000 versus $10,000 to $12,000 is pretty cost prohibitive. So I guess my plea today is either deny us availability or allow us to hook up directly without having to install the main line to the eastern point of our property line. And one of the other things that, knowing some other homeowners in our neighborhood along Caroline Circle, which is the road that's pretty parallel to the 5 Mile Interceptor as you travel north through our neighborhood, when the city installed that 5 Mile Interceptor originally, they also installed some kind of like branches. I don't know if they're considered mains. I'm not sure about the terminology, but they also installed branches along for 10 of those homeowners for them to hook up directly to those branches. So, I wanted to ask if there was, a branch nearby that we could hook up to, or if one had been installed. Otherwise, can we install directly to the 5 Mile Interceptor or just be denied availability? Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you, by the way.
Other neighbor, Mr. McQuarrie, I believe.
Yes, hi. I appreciate the time you give me. I'm just a couple of houses down from Mr. Mize, and
if you'll state your name and your address, not to be rude.
Sorry, Daryl McQuarrie at 1240 Ascot Lane.
Thank you.
And I'm in a similar situation. We are looking to just add a room onto our house. I have 3 small children, and we're kind of pressing for room on a 3-bedroom house. And with all the space I have on my lot, I thought for sure it wouldn't be an issue. And I've gone through the septic process. I had a soil scientist come out, and I was shocked to learn that I apparently am just under the requirement for required lot size because I couldn't use my existing sewer. I couldn't use a conventional system like I have. I'd have to upgrade to a new system, and that required a different space in my property. And apparently there wasn't quite enough room with the setbacks. So completely out of luck with the septic department. And so my next step was to, try to tap into one of the city sewer lines, just like Mr. Mize is talking about. Now I have unfortunately a couple more obstructions. I'm across the road from Mr. Mize's house, so I have the road in the way. But again, I come with a plea for options. I've talked in that length with Scott Andrews over the city, and we've talked about potential options. And one thing that just disappoints me is the lack of options for people in my situation, because I know several people have added onto their properties in the past, and that has been approved by septic. I know septic over the years has gotten considerably more restrictive for a reason. And so with their restriction, that leaves out options for families that like ours that don't exactly back up to the 5-mile interceptor line. And so with that, I come to this meeting asking for, potential options of is there a possibility that I could find a way to connect into that line in a way that, Mr. Mize is asking as well. And, or am I just simply out of luck as well? I don't know.
So I'm going to need some direction here. I know we do need to vote on these separately. To recap, Mr. Mize, would this $100,000 that you quote be shared by you and Mr. McQuarrie? Or Michelle, can you answer that question?
We haven't delved into those kind of financial arrangements between the two. Would it be helpful if I shared my screen and showed you a GIS aerial of kind of where this?
Yeah, the map that you gave earlier didn't help me much. I didn't even know where this road was until I Googled it. So yes, that would be great.
Am I able to do that, Angie? Okay.
And where's the nearest sewer at? Show that to us when you get that map up, because I've got my map up here and I'm trying to figure this out. And maybe you can zoom out and then zoom in, or vice versa, so that we can see.
Yeah. So here's Ascot Lane in Red Wing. I can zoom out a little bit. If Lewisburg Pike. So you kind of wind back in here into Red Wing a little bit. Apologize. Hopefully it's.
Is that off Holly Hill, right?
Yes.
Holly Hill Drive goes all the way down to the end there.
Yes.
Okay.
So here's the existing 5-Mile Creek interceptor. If it's catching up with me.
Yeah.
Here is 1233, which is Mr. Mize's property, and then Mr. McQuarrie's property is this one right here, 1240. If you can see my cursor.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are two. So we don't have a main that runs down Ascot Lane as of this point in right now.
And where's that main?
There's not. So 5-Mile Creek runs along the
Okay.
creek. Yeah. So we don't have a sewer that runs down Ascot Lane for all of these properties. So kind of consistent with how we work with other properties as far as granting availability and, asking them to extend the sewer main to the eastern side to allow the next property to pick up. It's kind of our normal practice. So Mr. Mize would have to either, if they didn't extend along the main along Ascot, have to, get an easement over the HOA common area, which is what, we've done. We've required the homeowner to do that for other properties as well.
But what solution does that provide for Mr. McQuarrie?
It doesn't.
Right. So.
I have a thought.
No,
One thing I'd add is providing service to the 1240 property becomes extremely difficult because it has to be a main. We don't typically allow long laterals in public right of way because of utility locates and maintenance of that. It almost always has to be a main when you're talking that distance for the 1240 instead of we have never allowed services to go that distance across multiple properties. So I just want to throw that out
Right.
there.
That's very helpful, Paul. Yes, Margaret?
We've been fairly consistent in the past with allowing hookups to our sewer if the distance is a certain mileage. But we've been pretty consistent about not letting people just wherever they are hook up, and if they're not in the city. And so I would, to help these two residents with their problem, I would like to see us just deny it right out so they can go on and deal with the county with the sewer, because then the county will know that they
It's
don't
not feasible.
have access.
So can you frame that as a motion, Margaret?
I will make that motion.
So we'll take them separately for item number 12.
All right.
Motion to deny.
To deny 1233 Ascot Lane.
Okay.
So
Can I get a second?
to deny sewer availability. Okay. You want the other one too?
Well, let's take them one at a time. Matt, is there anybody going to second Margaret's motion? I will. Is that allowed as the chairman? So I'm going to second that motion.
Do I have an opportunity to speak still? To make
Sure.
a
Go ahead,
comment?
Mr. Mize.
Okay, my request is, I mean, I guess it's just to deny if I won't be allowed to hook up unless I have to construct the main.
So your question is, what you're trying to say is, if I don't want to do the main, can I go to my backyard over the HOA common area?
Correct, yes. And if I cannot do that, then deny.
That is my thought.
Okay, I have a question as well.
Okay, we have a first and second, but keep going, Beth.
All right, so if we deny, is your opportunity still with the county feasible to get you what you need in order to add on?
For me, I don't know, actually, because they actually have not allowed me to get to the point beyond this right here, actually. So I have to get past, either I have a sewer availability or I don't have sewer availability.
Yeah. Okay.
And then they will proceed. If I don't have sewer availability, then they will look into my septic system. I know Derek, sorry, go ahead.
No, have you checked to see if you have another field that perks and other than one perk field? Because they're
No, we have
required two.
Yeah, we actually went through this process sort of before with the county because we built the pool in the backyard, and we were permitted for that because all of our septic field is in the front. So we have enough space in the front for our field lines. So we, there's no other opportunity to create another field other than what's in our front.
So you only have, so you're saying there's no other opportunity to create another septic field? Because I know that, Paul, am I wrong here? But the county's requiring a backup septic field these days, correct, in order to add on?
No, you're correct. I mean, we could potentially reject the sewer and he go to the county and find out that he cannot add on to the septic or increase it to what he desires because he'll be required to bring it into current standards. I did want to say one other thing is Mr. Mize stated that, with the 5 Mile Creek project or other projects, we did stick services out, and he is accurate in that. I will say that generally speaking, we will stick those services out when we're running the line across their property. In this case, it is in common open space. And a lot of times when we're running across someone's property, we're also damaging their septic field. So I would say that the board's policy, at least from my knowledge in the past, was when we did have major impacts to their property, we did stick out the service and allow service. This one's a little unique because it didn't actually cross his property and is in that common open space. So, but yes, he could very well go to the county and find out that he doesn't have the available real estate to do it, or has to make major upgrades, or it doesn't work. And that,
And can he come back before this body after that?
I'll let Michelle answer that.
No.
Yeah, he could.
Okay.
I mean, it's my understanding we've had other homeowners do the same thing.
Okay.
So if he comes back through that from the creek and up, he's telling us his septic field's in the front. So this, if he goes through the back, it's not going to disrupt his septic field, correct?
Well, I think
Michelle?
I think the best option for him would probably be to come off the front where his sewer connection is, where his connection is. But then he would have to get an easement over that HOA common area.
I think that space is about 365 feet, if I remember correctly. So it would be a very long service line.
Well, let me ask you something else. With these two gentlemen here asking for this, let me pose that to you all. Have you talked to your neighbors? I mean, could you all go in together to run? Wouldn't this be more feasible to go together as a group of people trying to obtain sewer for that area? Especially if people are trying to add on or have issues.
Well, I think we'd have to go to annexation, Bev. I mean, this is all outside. This is outside the city.
Well, just to clarify, we have an HOA, so that I believe our neighborhood is 100 homes or 101 homeowners, something like that. So in order to annex, we would actually have to have full neighborhood support. And I mean, to be honest with you, if someone came and asked me if I would support annexation, I would actually say no. So I know like the sentiment in our neighborhood, we don't have unanimous support for annexation, not just because of me. As far as the question about asking neighbors, to join in, I know that some of my surrounding neighbors, not just Daryl, are interested. But I mean, personally, I don't feel comfortable asking neighbors, even if, if the $100,000 estimated cost is just to extend it to the east side of my property. And then the next neighbor over would have to extend it another 100 and some feet probably across their property. So, I mean, the total cost just to get it to Warrior Drive, which would be kind of like our little kind of block in our neighborhood, has got to be at least $250,000. And that doesn't include crossing Ascot Lane for Daryl or the neighbor that's directly across from me. So, I mean, personally, I just don't feel comfortable asking any of my neighbors to spend, $30,000 to $50,000 on a sewer main.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what you're going to do. Because to me, I think this is the
Sure.
situation for you. Because if we say no, then you're going to go to the county and they're going to say no because you don't have a second field, which they're going to require to add on to the house. Then where does that leave you? You probably need to sell your house and move because you're probably not going to be able to add on. I'm just trying to be a problem solver here, and I'm not sure I see, Paul or Michelle, is there any way to solve this issue for them or not?
No, Alderman Berger, to your point, Chester Stevens was over there, those properties off of Chester Stevens were in a very similar situation. The 4, 5, 6 property owners pulled together and paid for the sewer extension themselves and extended the system per our master plan. So, we've seen that done successfully before. And in that case, we offered to do it turnkey with them, but we needed to have agreements in place for them to pay for it. Ultimately, they said they weren't willing to do it. They wanted to just do it themselves. We said, great. And they proceeded in that manner. But it is certainly an option.
They were in the city though, weren't they, Paul?
Yes.
Yes, sir. They were in the city.
That's a difference as well.
Yeah, they had been in the county, but they had earlier been annexed in. Yeah.
And I don't know if everyone concurs with this too, but you also, the infrastructure sitting there, you could generate more revenue obviously off of it. And that's why we've done because of the problems with trying to get the whole HOA to come in, we also created those annexation agreements that get recorded against the property so that if the board were to proceed with something of this nature, that we have the ability to annex those properties at a point in time in which the board supports it.
Very good point, Paul.
Yeah, I just don't know how to help them solve their problem. I don't see a solution here on our end.
I appreciate you making that effort, Ms. Berger. We've looked into moving. I mean, and I'm sure you all know what's going on with property prices these days. So, that's prohibitive as well. So it's just a shame with all the property that I have that I'm been shut out by the septic, and obviously looks like here's problematic as well.
You also just have one field. You don't have another perk.
Yeah, I just have one field in the front. And I have a lot of space in the back, but apparently based on my soil type and what have you, I was just under the necessary square footage due to easements and setbacks. So yeah, I mean
Well, I just would love to find a way to help you all because I know it's very difficult, cost prohibitive in many ways, and then think about having to move when you need more space with more children and everything. It's a difficult situation. I don't know if anybody here has a solution to it or not. I haven't heard anything.
Bad situation all around. So, all right, Margaret, we have a motion on the table to deny for 1233 Ascot Lane. Roll call vote, starting with Margaret.
Yes.
Dana.
Yes.
Bev.
I guess yes.
Okay, I'll also vote yes. Passes unanimously. Sorry, Mr. Mize, for your situation. Item number 13, consideration of sewer availability for 1240. May I have a first or a motion? Excuse me. Sorry.
I move for denial for sewer availability for 1240 Ascot Lane for the same reasons.
Okay. May I have a second?
I'll second with a comment.
All right, Dana, go right ahead.
I'm willing to revisit this issue depending upon how things play out.
Absolutely. I think we all, I can't
wanna be
speak for
clear.
everyone, but that seems to be the common thread for both of you gentlemen to know.
This is a no for now.
Absolutely. All right, any more comments or questions?
I would agree with Dana's comment as well.
Yes, I do too. All right, roll call vote. Margaret, how do you vote on item number 13?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
I also vote yes, passes for denial unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 14, capital projects dashboard. Jonathan and Paul, in light of the fact we're an hour and 20 minutes in, pick your favorite, and if there's any questions, we'll go there.
Or the easiest, shortest one if it's not your favorite.
Sure. Paul, we can't hear you, honey.
I will do the easiest and shortest one I can. Southeast Bridge plans in Carruthers Widening are in and ready for bid. So by next CIC meeting, we will be out to bid and are extremely excited to do that project. And also it includes a major relocation of the sanitary sewer main. So that's going out to bid next week, and we are very excited to get that moving. So outside of that, there's a lot more going on, but happy to answer any questions you have.
My only question is, did I see those box culverts sitting on Franklin Road ready to go under that bridge?
Those box culverts are probably for the underground electric that you're referring to. We're not putting them under the bridge. That'll come with the TDOT project.
Okay.
I do want to be clear too, and I should have mentioned this. The bridge for the Southeast Park isn't the park phase. It's simply just the initial infrastructure to get access to the park. So let me be clear about that. But yes, on Franklin Road, those are for the underground electric duct bank system.
Okay. Anybody else?
How's McEwen Ford moving along? Do we have bids out?
Bingo.
Appraisals?
We are continuing to push out the appraisals as we get them. We're still working on settlement, but we've been running that at risk and moving very fast with it. So again, we're continuing to try to push that through TDOT as quickly as we can.
Are we having any problems with the HOAs?
No, we're starting to get the appraisals in for the HOA, so they're going to start getting them here shortly if they haven't already. But no, we've not had any major issues with the HOAs at this point.
Yep. And if you've not talked to Eric on my latest comment from with him the other day, just get with him.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks.
Margaret, do you have any questions?
No.
I know Dana probably doesn't. I'll entertain a motion to skedaddle.
So moved.
Dana, give me, okay, Bev first.
Peace out.
Peace out. Roll call vote. Margaret,
Yes.
Dana,
Yep.
Bev,
Yes.
good evening and adieu. Goodbye.
Thanks, Brandy.
You're welcome.